Oregon, known for its coffee, craft brews, fishing, mountains, its homeless, rioting, and its liberal hippies. There's a little something for everybody in this beautiful state. Oregon has a really pretty coast on one side and desert and mountains on the other. It's one of a few states where it's possible to ski and surf on the same day. Pretty cool, Oregon. As you probably already know, Oregonians care about the environment. You're never going to see somebody throw trash out of their car window, and owning and riding a bike here is practically a law. The state has a growing economy and it's home to some large companies. It's also one of the few states in the U.S. with no income tax. But let's face it, there's bad sides to every state, and that's what we're going to talk about right now, because you people are sick and more of you want to know about bad Oregon than good Oregon. So here we are in Oregon, where it's gray and rainy, just like it is every day in Oregon, right? So how do you come up with a list of the worst places to live in Oregon? Well, you ask people in Oregon, that's how. Plus you look at data, so we can all determine the worst places to live, where there's a lot of high crime and bad schools, and where the homes are all crappy, and where people are just jerks, right? That's how. There won't be any surprises on this list, believe me. So let's take a look at the worst places you can live in Oregon. We begin our tour of the worst places to live in Oregon with a stop in Cottage Grove, located just about 30 minutes south of Eugene, right along I-5. Cottage Grove has a small town feel with a lot of history, and with a cute name, you'd think it was picture perfect. It is not that anymore. It started out as a small mining and farming community, but the economy's dried up here since its heyday. There's 10,000 people here, and almost 1 in 10 residents is jobless. As a result, 1 in 5 folks here are struggling below the poverty line. The residents who have jobs are earning far under $50K a year, and the median home value is about $192,000. In today's market, that's only going to get you a double wide, pal. Safety's a concern in Cottage Grove, with the crime rate way above the national average. While you really don't have to be concerned about getting beaten up, you should keep your doors locked because you have a 1 in 24 chance of being the victim of a property crime every year you call this place home. That's right, here in Little Cottage Grove. It's not all bad here. While Oregon's education system has a poor reputation, Cottage Grove's public schools aren't terrible. 9 in 10 kids graduate. And hey, they just built a new elementary school, so that's cool. And there's a lot of parks in town, and Cottage Grove is the only place in Oregon that still has a covered railroad bridge. So there's that. We're going to go down the coast for our 9th worst place to live in Oregon. It's COOS Bay, home to about 16,000 people. Well, this place has stunning views. It also has its share of struggles, too. Jobs are hard to come by in COOS Bay. 9% of residents are unemployed, and about 17% of the population is living below the poverty line. The weak economy may be to blame for the growing crime rate, which is more than double the national average. This little town has the 5th highest property and violent crimes in the state. What? Little COOS Bay? It's true. COOS Bay also has the highest rate of rape cases in the state too, and by a pretty significant margin. And they record a burglary here about every other day. Per capita, there's very few places in Oregon with a higher burglary rate. People living here say COOS Bay's been overrun by drug addicts and homeless people. Well, that's pretty much the whole state, right? They blame Portland for the increase in druggy losers, and they're probably not wrong. Parents are upset because they say their kids are stumbling upon used needles, and they say there's trash-filled homeless camps all over the place. The kids are finding them on their way home from school. What is happening in COOS Bay? People also complain there's just not much to do here. Walmart pushed a lot of the mom and pop shops out of town, and medical care is apparently hard to come by. People here say they have to drive several hours to see a doctor. What the hell? For number 8, we're going to head all the way out to Umatilla County, way up along the Columbia River to Hermiston. Population 17,000. This town's famous for its watermelons. Apparently the climate and soil conditions in Hermiston help produce a perfect melon. But that might be the only sweet part about living here. Huh, everyone? Hermiston's a town with a mixed bag of problems. The economy's struggling. The median income here isn't bad, but about 8% of people here can't or won't work, and so 1 in 5 residents are living below the poverty line. The local schools have their own problems. Voters here have shown a strong support for education, and they actually voted in a bunch of capital projects over the last 2 decades, but throwing money at the problem doesn't always help. Listen to this. only 31% of high school kids are proficient in math. Seriously, 31%. And the graduation rate here is 75%. And about 30% of adults in Hermiston never finished high school. And get this, 15% of people here never even finished ninth grade. On top of that, safety is a concern. The crime rate tops the national average, and by quite a bit. And while it's mostly property crime, do you really want to live somewhere where you have a 1 in 32 chance of having your stuff stolen every year? While the residents may argue that Hermiston's a fun place to live, a lot of people here don't have much cash to spare at the end of the month to do anything. At number 7, we go to Medford, way down near the California state line. Again, right along I-5. There's 81,000 people in Medford, and it's growing quickly. But this place is getting worse and worse. The economy's struggling, crime is really high, and I'm sure you know drugs are a huge problem here. There's a reason they call this place MEDFORD. A lot of people here are just broke and out of work. Income levels are about $50K, which doesn't go very far in a place that's getting really expensive. Plus, this place is getting filled with a bunch of California refugees. Nobody wants that. If you live in Oregon, you'd know crime here is really bad. You'd have a 1 in 18 chance of being the victim of a property crime every year you lived in Medford. One resident says it best. If you don't have a garage, your car will be broken into. Or if you park along one of the beautiful hiking spots, your car will be broken into. Leave anything outside your house, it will be stolen. Who wants to live their lives like that? And you've heard it all before by now. Medford's home to a bunch of homeless people and drug addicts nowadays. There's homeless camps springing up in places you didn't even think a homeless camp would ever be. Longtime Medford residents say meth and heroin are destroying the city. And Medford is struggling to keep this all contained. I mean, the city's mental health care access took a big setback recently due to furloughs. And if all of this wasn't enough to make you stay away, you also have regular smoky wildfires all year. For many weeks each summer, the wildfire smoke's so bad you can't even go outside. Hard pass from me. Take I-5 east from Corvallis for about an hour, and eventually you'll come to a little place called Sweet Home, way out in Lynn County. Don't let the name fool you. About 9,600 people live in Sweet Home, and I'm sure many people wish they didn't. At one time, Sweet Home was a booming little logging town, but a lot of the mills shut down and a drug epidemic took over, and this cute little town's turned to trash. It's hard to find a job in Sweet Home, so about 1 in 10 people here have just stopped trying. And for those who do have some sort of job, they make really low salaries. The poverty level here is approaching 1 in 4 residents at this point, which is really sad and a sign of the times. On top of that, the town suffers from a major safety issue. The crime rate in Sweet Home is 113% above the national average. Thankfully, it's mostly property crime, but you have a 1 in 19 chance of having your stuff stolen every year you live in Sweet Home. The public schools are subpar. Only about 29% of high school kids are good in math, and just 66% can read at the correct level. And their parents didn't do much better either. 1 in 5 adults living here never finished high school. What the hell? This town also lacks diversity. And you know what doesn't make a Sweet Home? Divorce. Sweet Home has the 5th highest divorce rate in the whole state. The only redeeming quality of Sweet Home is its proximity to nature. There's tons to do outdoors, from boating and fishing and hiking and camping and all that other stuff, so at least they have that. At number 5 is Klamath Falls down in Klamath County, again down near California. It's super pretty here. The town's 21,000 residents have scenic views and access to a ton of outdoor activities. But life here isn't all boat parties and fireworks. No, it is not. Klamath Falls is struggling with a weak economy. I know. Same story, different town. Klamath Falls has the 3rd worst unemployment rate in the state at nearly 10%, and those who can find a job only make about $41,000 a year. And the poverty rate here is about 1 in 4. Klamath Falls also has the 6th lowest average property value. A 1-bedroom, 1-bath, 500 square foot house here will cost you about $160K. People living here say the town's run down and there's a ton of empty buildings. They say businesses are always changing hands. Everything just looks dirty unless it's covered in snow. Residents here say Klamath Falls lacks diversity, and they complain about all the meth heads running around. They say they're rowdy, loud, and violent. Hey, that's mean. Meth heads are regular people. You don't have to insult them. And get this, Klamath Falls has the 2nd highest murder rate, the 4th highest rate of rape cases, and the 7th highest burglary rates in the whole state. What is going on in the middle of nowhere, Oregon? Overall, Klamath Falls is a great place to visit, but you do not want to plant roots here, mister. We're going from one redneck town to another. Our next stop's little Prineville, which is on the desert side of Bend. There's about 10,000 people here. If you didn't grow up in Prineville, you wouldn't be welcome. Apparently, they don't like outsiders. You wouldn't want to move here anyway, though. The economy's weak, and there's a lack of opportunities for work. Prineville has the second highest unemployment rate in the state and some of the poorest people in Oregon. People make about $35K a year here on average, and a ton of people don't even make that. And it's not even cheap here either. Just look at what $200,000 will buy you here. What the hell? Another issue is the underfunded schools, which perform poorly compared to the national average. Only about 29% of high school kids are good in math and English, but the graduation rate's 95%, so they're just churning out unprepared kids. On the bright side, surprisingly, crime isn't a huge problem here. Sure, there's going to be occasional thefts, but it's nothing compared to the other places on this list. And here's some great news. Prineville's the 10th luckiest city in Oregon based on lottery winnings per capita. I bet the people living here could sure use a lottery win or two, but I'm sure they just blow it on more lottery tickets anyways. For the first and last time, we're going way out to eastern Oregon, to the Idaho state line, to Little Ontario, population 11,000. You may not have even heard of Ontario, but this is the most dangerous place to live in Oregon per capita. Ontario residents have a 1 in 134 chance of being violently attacked and a 1 in 16 chance of having their stuff stolen. The city has the highest murder rate, the second highest rate of rape cases, and the second highest rate of burglaries in the whole state. What in the damn hell? I'm sure a lot of the crime here is because of the poverty. About 30% of residents live below the poverty line. A lot of people are out of work, and those who can get a job make about $36K a year. There's a reason Ontario has the state's lowest home prices, where you could get a place like this for about $117,000. On the plus side, the schools are well funded, so maybe there's hope for the future of Ontario. Probably not, but maybe. The second worst place to live in Oregon's teeny Madras along Route 97, just a short drive north of Bend in Jefferson County. Now, you probably heard of Madras back in 2017 when the town sat in the path of a solar eclipse. It was an exciting time for the town, and they got a bunch of people in town to witness the event. Hotels were sold out years in advance. It was a great economic boost to this little town, but the money came and went, and now it seems like the sunny days have never returned here. This little town has the worst unemployment rate in the state, and close to 1 in 4 people are living below the poverty line. Residents who are lucky enough to have a job are making under $35K a year, and the average property value is $182,000 a year, which is the 14th lowest in Oregon. Plus, 19% of adults never finished high school. And guess what? No shocker. People complain there's a growing homeless population here too. Just like in Oregon's other shitty areas, there's drug addicts wandering the streets at all hours. And that's going to mean there's going to be a lot of crime. Madras is the 9th worst in the state for property crime and the 17th highest for violent crime. Although Madras has some really pretty views, people who live here say there's just not much to do here. There's zero nightlife. It's just a place for those who want a small town farm life. And the worst place to live in Oregon is... suspense is building. It's Portland, of course. Come on now. Portland's so bad, I did a whole video on it. Our first reason Portland sucks and why you should never move here is, well, everybody else is leaving. Well, not everyone, but lots of people are. A recent report just found that more people left Portland than moved into it. And most of those people are in their 20s, which is always a key demographic for the city's growth and very telling considering that younger people have been the lifeblood for Portland's growth of late. And if they're not leaving, they're not coming to begin with. Reports have shown there's been a 4% drop in rental activity in the city as well. It seems that word's out among people who live here and for visitors too. One fan of this channel sent me this comment talking about their experience when they were coming into Portland on a recent trip. As the plane landed, the comment says, the pilot said, "Welcome to the city of roses," and the entire plane burst into laughter. But forget all the research and newspaper articles. How about we talk with real, actual Portland residents to get their perspective? All right, everybody. So we have a special guest today joining me, and I'm sure many of you are going to recognize him. It's Briggs from World According to Briggs. What's up, Briggs?
What is going on, Nick? How are you, buddy?
Do you know where people are moving to?
They're just getting across the river and out of Portland. And I know a lot of people are moving to the Beaverton area that used to live downtown. So
And
yeah,
probably never coming back.
probably not. It's kind of like I am now. The downtown, living downtown, if you don't need to, you shouldn't. I mean, it's great if you're in your 20s and like to hit the bars and stuff like that. You start having a family and stuff like that, the suburbs are calling you.
So you're leaving Portland proper because why?
I mean, for the past decade or so, Portland has had some pretty significant problems with homelessness, drug abuse, just cleanliness of the city in general. But before 2020, it was pretty tolerable. Like you could still, go out, enjoy your weekend in the city, go downtown, and maybe you have a couple run-ins with some unsavory individuals, or maybe you have to step over some, human feces in the street, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I didn't feel, uncomfortable in any way. And I have a 2-year-old daughter, and, we never cared, or, I mean, we would go downtown all the time, and it never really bothered us, some of the homelessness we'd see down there.
Mhm.
But, 2020 kind of took a nosedive, and it did for, most cities. It's really depressing around here. There's a lot of homeless camps, and with that, there's a lot of new property crime. And I feel for the people, but it's kind of just a hard place to be. And we're looking forward to being a calmer place, somewhere where we're more comfortable raising a family and just getting to enjoy our lives. And from what I've read online, yeah, a lot of people are looking to try and get to nicer neighborhoods, or just leave the city or the state entirely.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I spoke with one mother on the phone who said it's just not a safe place to raise kids anymore. She's leaving too.
I think we've noticed a trend that a lot of people who are like myself were born and raised in Portland. We're moving to the suburbs. Like we're moving, a lot of us are going to Happy Valley or Clackamas, or just further out. We like that our families are here, everyone's here. But so we're definitely, a lot of us are moving away from the central, metro area.
Of course, Portland is a filthy city these days, in case you haven't heard. Listen to what one Portland resident had to say about her city.
Portland is embarrassing. I see businesses continue to move out as more problems move into Portland, and those problems continue to bring more and more problems. Portland smells like weed, beer, and urine when you walk down the streets. Portland has been the only city I've seen people defecate on the side of the streets while families try to walk by. Portland is the only place where I've seen needles and the remainings of other drugs littering the streets, parks, and business entryways. And I used to love it here. I really did. But now I do my very best to avoid the city, and I think that's really sad.
And here's another comment I got from a Portland resident. The garbage is out of control. The people who make these horrible messes should be held accountable. Burned cars, stripped cars, buckets of human around every corner, syringes, rubbers, rats, and bed bugs, rampant. There's no flower pots out to see, no swings, no birds really to speak of, the noise of the trains and the planes. The baseball fields are overgrown, as are the parks and recreational places. People are still helpful and mostly friendly, but my city is getting slowly sucked down the crapper. I mean, I got comment after comment about how sad Portland residents are about their city, what it looks like, what it smells like now. It was overwhelming. So there you have it, the worst places to live in Oregon. These are all the places in the state that have bad economies, bad crime, and a ton of homeless people and druggies all over the place. But overall, these places are the exception. There's some pretty great places to live in Oregon that haven't been ruined by freeloading losers. Like Bend is a great place, and Eugene isn't ruined yet. And there's some really nice suburbs of Portland, like Sherwood, Lake Oswego, Westland, and Tigard, kind of the southern Portland suburbs. Move there if you want a safe place to live, where there's a lot to do, and where the schools are good, and where there's still a sense of community. Just don't ever move to Portland. Promise me. Ever. You'll regret it. There's a lot of small towns where there's folks who don't want to be noticed. There's a lot of Portland people who just want the world to notice. All the things they do in Portland is to be themselves, but always others in the state are like, can't we just live our lives in solace? it than that. Oregon is complicated. Hipsters, ranchers, mountains, beaches, skiers, vegans, gays, and freaks. There's a different feel here. Just take a trip with me and see waterfalls and ocean cliffs and forest deep with lots of trees. Some wear Wranglers, some wear suits, and then there's those in skinny jeans. It's a state of drugs, but there's more to it than that. Oregon is complicated. Hipsters, ranchers, mountains, beaches, skiers, vegans, gays, and freaks. There's a different feel here. Just take a trip with me and see waterfalls and ocean cliffs and forest deep with lots of trees. Some wear Wranglers, some wear suits, and then there's those in skinny jeans. Hey guys, so if anything I just talked about upset you or made you sad or mad, well then do something about it. Call your local leaders and demand change. Chip in and help those in need. Make your community better, because communities don't get better without hard work and determination. America's a great place. It just needs some more love and pride.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.
And are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. You can get my email in the description to find out how I can help you find your perfect relocation.